BILIYAMIN'S, BELLO and ODIBI are two among many men who have paid the supreme price in marriage, their lives taken by the ones they loved. Now, while the circumstance of BILIYAMIN'S death is being contested before a court of law, the case of ODIBI, stabbed by his wife and his manhood cut off recently in the most pathetic way, brings home the horror of domestic violence. Before now, it was a case of men abusing women, and speaking fairly, many more women have passed through that route, leading to global advocacies to stop violence against women. One may, however, want to ask why it appears that the table is turning and men are now becoming the victims of the unhealthy trend. What could make a woman kill her husband and cut off his manhood? And how bad is the situation as we speak? Answers to these questions we hope to bring to you on this edition of Nigeria Today. My name is Joy Osiahu. Thanks for joining us. With me in the studio to look at this issue is the Director Legal National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, Abdulrahim Okpotu. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
Also in the studio is Rita Yubo. She is of the African Women Peace Builders Fellowship. Rita, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome, thank you.
Now let me start with you, Abdulrahim. To start with, what will make a woman stab her husband or kill her husband?
It's a very pathetic and very horrific issue. You know, for a man or for a human being to, harm, his own spouse, her own spouse, either the husband or the woman, like in this case where the woman has to kill the husband. It's pathetic. But from this story, which a lot of people have read in the newspapers, is that the woman does not have confidence in the man any longer. The woman is childless and does not have any issue, and there's allegation that the man has other issues or children which has been taken care of, and she now asks her to make a will that he will give her all his property, and the man refused. Based on that, she felt that she has lost everything. So based on that, she decided to do the forbidden thing, because whatever it is, you can walk out of the marriage if the arrangement is no longer working, because a marriage is for the comfort of both parties. So once it is no longer working, either party has other legal procedures to follow to work out of the marriage. Either you seek for a divorce and you separate. But now, for you,
based on what you just narrated, is that coming from your findings, or is this based on assumption?
That is the reason for the violence.
Most of the cases you've heard?
No, most of the cases you have is, like I've said, it's lack of trust and confidence. When the man or the woman in particular does not have faith in the relationship, because we've gotten a lot of experiences in NAPTIP where I work. When we ask what happened, she will tell you that, well, as far as she's concerned, this man does not love me any longer.
All right, let me just cut you short there and go to Miss Rita Yubo. Let's hear from Rita. These cases are coming up frequently now, where we hear of men being the victims. Now, how factual is this? And I would also like you to also look into the first question I put to Abdulrahim. I mean, what will make a woman want to kill her husband?
Thank you, Joy. The issue of domestic violence, and violence in particular, knows no sex. But the truth of the matter these days is the values we hold, the traditions and the attitudes of people. Some come to believe that a man should be a man, should be masculine, should be strong, should be this. And so even when things get pretty hard, he should still prove to the woman that he is man enough. Secondly, the question of dominance. When one party, either because of economic, political, or emotional interest, wants to dominate the other, and there is some form of resistance, there is this tendency of violence taking place.
Now, is that coming from your findings, looking at the organization that you work for?
Yeah, research suggests and point to the fact that when economic situations, especially where women are deprived of economic empowerment, they have to be dependent on their partners for whatever support they need. However, when the man is unable to provide this support, there is this tendency of violence springing up. For example, we are going through some economic hardship now, and it would be very demeaning of a man, a Nigerian man, to admit that they have nothing when their ladies, their partners are making progress, and the society demands on them to live up to their expectations and be a man before they are women.
So, but where do you, here is my question. We are in difficult times, and where do you expect the man to make that extra money from?
The man is not expected by you or myself or any other person to do that, but by virtue of the traditions and the values we hold, prove that you are strong, you are a man, and even live in self-denial, so that the masculinity, the patriarchy in you is dominates the whole thing. So anger and every other thing, and because of the bond, the fantasy bond that comes in, you don't even want to detach yourself from the partner. The partner still holds on to you, you hold on to the partner, and you are blinded to these flashpoints that something negative could happen. After all, you are in charge. So you keep holding on to this fantasy that you are in charge. So most of these are unplanned. Oftentimes they are, but most times they are not.
All right, let me go quickly to Abdulrahim. We talk about being a man.
Yes.
How do you expect a man to be a man, especially in these times that we're in that are challenging?
Honestly speaking, in every relationship, it has to do with the understanding of both parties, the husband and the wife. First and foremost, I want to say that there shouldn't be any reason at all, whether for economic, social, psychological reason, that any of the spouse should have to cause harm to the opposite sex, because all situations are temporary. Even if it is issue of hardship or the country is hard, it is temporary. It will be over. But what we have discovered is that there are a lot of factors responsible, including health challenges. I have a feeling that people that take to arms against their spouse has a lot of psychological or very serious health challenge, which they have to address by going to check themselves up. Because if you get angry or you are so angered, and you have to resort into taking an object, either a knife or a gun or whatever it is, to harm your own wife. Honestly speaking, it goes beyond proper reasoning. So that's why I feel that this is goes beyond even the issue of our culture, because our culture, is a good culture. You're supposed to take care of your wife physically. You love her. That is why you get to her own family, and we are married to one another. So you're supposed to be supporting each other. It's not as if the man should provide everything. Nowadays it is collaborative. You are supposed to provide, he will provide. Whoever has more should give. So it's supposed to be a working relationship. So when this thing is in this area, many factors are responsible. Like the instances you gave now, it is the wife who believes she has been shortchanged.
Talking about being shortchanged, let me go quickly to Rita. Some people have also looked at it from the perspective of emotional challenges. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, emotional challenges come in, especially when you look at this woman or any other partner, for example, who has this dominant spirit, or so to speak, and has some upper hand over another, and the other party is trying to suppress them. And suppression is some kind of violence as well. So it is only when it manifests that that the other party has also been violated. So when someone is being suppressed, there's a limit to which they can hold that. There is no justification whatsoever that a weapon be taken against another. But what we're trying to establish here is that when someone is pressed, when someone is suppressed and they know that they have some justifiable reasons, they tend to react. For example, a woman now comes home with some resources and sees the man is over there. The man has been proving, I am the man, and you hurt her emotional feelings. You hurt her state of understanding to some extent of her independence and stuff. She does not necessarily plan to do this, but she may just come up. And you see, one of the reasons why the instances of women violating their partners being dominant in the news these days is not because the cases are quite many. It is because it is unlikely of women doing this. So when it comes up, it's like it's one too many.
Now, talking about suppression, so a school of thought would argue that women were suppressed in the past, even more than these days. So what is the difference between what we used to have in the past and now?
You will agree with me, Joy, that women are naturally people that endure, as we understand in society these days. I mean, always. But what you see now is that the extent of the economic hardship now, it's a reality. Some of these women have had their husbands abandon them because of this hardship. So apart from the suppression that they went through, that they are women, they do not even have the right to spend their earnings the way they want. They do not even have the right to initiate a dialogue before their husbands, friends, or whatever relations. It's one of the reasons why you see them with this attitude. They just keep harboring this for a long time. Sometimes it is out of pressure from their backgrounds, maybe their families, friends, or associates, that, come on, you are bringing in this and you are being suppressed this way. Do you want to really take it? Is this something you want to is this how you want to continue? Is this your bargain? Was this what you brought to the table? And stuff like that. So some of these things come not particularly because the person is in fact independently emotionally touched, but because of the influence. Sometimes friends, sometimes, as he said, alcohol or some drugs that some people take to deal with the suppression, to deal with the oppression, to deal with the circumstances that they are going through.
That's right. Let's go to Rahim now. You know, talking about influence of friends, peer group, and intake of alcohol. I have heard stories where married women take codeine now out of emotional trauma. Do you have cases like that within your organization? Have you had people come to report to you?
By virtue of mandate given to NAPTIP, we are the one implementing the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, you know, a law that was passed in May 2015. And we'll be having a lot of report to the agency of issues of spousal battery, you know, violence in homes, domestic violence. We have a lot of cases reported to us, and each time we ask, you know, what really prompted all of this. You know, one key point that keep on, you know, recurring has to do with issue of infidelity. You know, and sometimes it is out of high suspicion. You know, we've had cause to even settle some of these issues because some, while in court, they are still looking for a way to have it settled amicably. Because even if you win in court, by the time you still go back to the same home, there'll still be a problem. So they want an amicable settlement. So sometimes we take up to 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours trying to resolve issues between couples in our agency.
Now, were you able to resolve any in the course of your duty?
Oh, sure. You know, some they will kneel down, and the husband will say, well, because you see, sometimes, like I mentioned, most of the time it's out of suspicion. You know, so we have to use our own knowledge, you know, because we are not young in marriage. We have to let them know how you need to endure in marriage, what marriage needs to take. That is give and take. It's not you. It's not a win. It's not you must win at all times.
All right, we'll come back to the issue of marriage and endurance after we take a short break. You're watching Nigeria Today on NT News 24, and we have been looking at the rising cases of domestic violence against men. Surprisingly, you may want to say. We'll take a break now to hear the opinions of Nigerians on the matter. Stay with us.
Originally, it was not like this. You understand? But the whole world is changing to something else now as we speak. You understand? So in this part of the world, you see, you can attribute the cause to so many things. You understand? And now as we speak, you can see that Nigeria, especially here in Nigeria, people are living in abject poverty. You understand? That, I would say, is one of the causes.
You know what this one can do? This one can do, like during the period of courtship. Then after that courtship, we got married. I mean, I started seeing strange attitude in the man. You know, at times that anger, when you are pissed off, you might end up just doing something. That killing, maybe it might not be intentional. You understand? But due to anger, she might just wake up and decide to end everything. And so at times, most times though, I don't blame them. The men too are not trying, like seriously.
Man should kill a husband. You know, everything is all because of the method of feeding in the family. Because women, you know, they always like asking money and how to maintain the family and keep the family. So, and now we can say that things are not too good as before. So as a result of that, men are hardly gathered enough to feed their family.
People doesn't have fear of God, and there is no love. And another thing is hardship. You understand? If you are normal, if you have, you understand, if you can feed well, you understand, your mind relax, you forget a lot of things.
All right, it's back to the studio. You all watched the clip there. Let's start with you, Rita. What's your opinion about what we have Nigerians on the street saying concerning this issue?
Yeah, they raised quite a number of issues there. They raised the economic situation in the country. They raised the issue of dependence on one another, confidence and trust, and the break of that after a certain period in a relationship and stuff like that. So quite a number of things, and then distrust, which is still that. I think these things put together constitute what we are saying today, and they are what I earlier referred to as the suppression that we see. So that is the latent aspect of the manifest we are saying today. So over the period of time, you see these people being suppressed, one or the other being suppressed, and their voices being buried. So when it's like you put a ball in water, you push it down. After a while, you see, once you release, what does it do? It bounces back. So actually it is an effect of what has been happening over time. Yeah, which we may not necessarily see. But apart from that, as they also say, the economic hardship. And so why don't we even bring to the table the fact that we have to change some narratives? Why must we let the men know and the women know that they have to be dependent on the man all the time? Why don't we change the narrative and let us begin to see that the women are capable of taking care of themselves if we empower them beginning from childhood? From childhood, we let the boys know that the women should be talked down, that they cannot initiate a decision in the family. But at some point, this becomes unbearable for them. They want their voices heard, especially as they are interacting with the global community. You see them watch news, you see them on social media, you see how their contemporaries are doing in other parts of the world. They want to be that. But then our society has not provided them this avenue to be as expressive as their contemporaries are. So they keep bottling this to a point that it explodes. So the point here now, we have to get back to the drawing table and see how we can begin to change our narratives. See, must the man be the breadwinner?
All right, on that note, I'll go to Abdurrahim. Rita is calling for a paradigm shift. Someone had said earlier on to me that marriage should be about partnership. We should move away from this old theory of let the man be the breadwinner. What is your take on that?
Thank you so much, Joy. You see, what I have to say is that a lot of factors, are responsible for this anomaly. Basically, in our own society today, we have a society where we have some kind of influences, things that influence us. Our religious background, our cultural background. What does our religion teach us? That we should maintain peace in our homes, you know. So we expect that an ideal home, if the man and woman in charge, they should be able to, you know, raise up good children and, you know, create a kind of generation that will better our own country. So in a situation where, you know, a lot of things has gone haywire, no trust, no confidence, no love, no care, no affection, honestly speaking, then anything can happen. So like we mentioned earlier, you know, there shouldn't be any reason why any spouse should raise up his hand, just a mere hand, before talking of taking a knife or a gun to cut the genital of the other party.
Now let's go to the crux of the matter.
Yes.
These men are being bullied. We're hearing of cases recently. But the thing is, we also notice that some of them are not talking. Why are they keeping quiet? Rita?
Yeah, the men are keeping quiet because of attitudes, because of the values we hold. You must be a man. You know, there's this stereotype, there's this shaming that accompanies this thing when a man comes out to testify, to speak out. We must discourage this. Somebody is crying, allow the person to cry. Don't tell him that he's a man, he should be strong. No, let them speak out. Don't shame them by saying that, come on, why would you be telling us that your woman beat you up? I mean, come on, we should not do that. Understand with them first and foremost that they are human and they are carrying the flesh just like you and I are carrying this flesh. And it could be hurt at any given point with whatever could be used on a child, not even an adult.
All right, Abdul Rahim, let's hear from you about that matter.
Yeah, well, it is very funny that if you are receiving pain, you keep quiet and stomach the pain. You must shout out. You know, if somebody uses a pin to, you know, pick you, you know, and it's causing pain on you, you have to shout. So I believe that men who are actually suffering some kind of form of violence, you know, in their own home, you know, in a marital circumstance, should be able to complain to the right quarters. And some of them have been complaining, basically. You know, they complain. You know, and we look into it.
Okay, I want us to talk about statistics. Now, you know, ODIBI is just a recent case that happened about 2 days ago.
Yes.
So from statistics, how often do you get cases of men being abused from what you've found out?
Yes, since we started implementing this law I mentioned, that is Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015, we've received not less than 30 cases. But the incidence of women reporting is higher than that of men.
So it's still higher?
It's very, very high, you know. Okay. So than that of men. Maybe it is 1 out of 10, you know.
So for the ones you've heard about men, could we say their neighbors are coming to complain, or these men eventually come to complain?
The men complain, you know. The men complain too, that this is what is happening to them. You see, now awareness is very much getting wider in this situation, not only for the men, for the women as well, for the society, that the era of silence is over. You know, whatever it is that you are suffering, you need to speak out, because it's only when you speak out you can get, you know, solution. So some of them try to take their cases to religious homes for settlement or to some other traditional centers. But now the law is there that can, you know, take care of you. So sometimes when they come, you know, because we have power to institute a case in court, and to be able to prosecute whoever violated the other person, and we can get you convicted or jail. So once we file a case, it is then they coming, 2 of them begging.
All right, let me go quickly to Rita, because time is not on our side. You know, talking about speaking out, now there's this belief that, oh, when you get married, it's about endurance, just endure the situation. At what point should someone pull out of a marriage, be it a man or a woman? And what are the warning signals that people need to look out for?
Yeah, first and foremost, marriage should not be endured. Pain should not be endured. Violence should not be endured. But these are the things that we cherish. He said something here and touched on religion, that the religious beliefs we hold admonish us to maintain our our marital relationships no matter what. It shouldn't be no matter what. We should ensure that the moment somebody is uncomfortable with the other partner, they should seek help right away, and the law provides for that. The customary laws of our land provide for this. So the moment they begin to feel uncomfortable, seek for counseling. If you get that and you feel the church or wherever you're worshiping is suppressing that, get legal support. Speak with your friends and let them help you out. He works with the NAPTIP. Let NAPTIP come in, for example, and I think NAPTIP should create more awareness on this to let people know that they can actually come in and to domesticate this in most of the states across the country, because there are some states that are still not covered. So I think that will help.
Rita Ibo of the African Women Peace Builders Fellowship, want to thank you very much for sharing with us from your wealth of knowledge and experience. We thank you very much for joining us today. We also like to thank the Director Legal National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Person, Abdul Rahim Okpodo. Thank you very much for joining us. This was quite informative for me, and I'm sure a lot of people took away 1 or 2 lessons from what we discussed here this evening. And that concludes this edition of Nigeria Today, and we have been talking about domestic violence in Nigeria. Join us on Monday for another interesting topic. My name is Joy Usiagu. Do have a great weekend.